last 2 days until 28th and 29th, the infrastructure working group meeting happened here. As we had briefed earlier, so we had 14 G20 members physically attending here, plus 10 invitee countries, plus 10 international organizations, total 57 delegates, foreign delegates attended this meeting on 28th and 29th. So 28th, we had 3 sessions. I will briefly tell about what happened in the sessions. Of course, I will not be able to share in detail about the members and their responses, but I can give you an overall view of what happened. So the first day, we had 3 sessions and 1 workshop. The first session is the principles of financing cities of tomorrow that are inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. So in the infrastructure working group, this is the flagship theme that we have chosen. So from India side, we had prepared a draft paper and circulated to all the members in advance. So members suggested few points. They all agreed that it is a very well prepared draft, and in order to sharpen the deliverable, there were few suggestions given by the members. So some of the suggestions are like, it should be covering the circumstances in the developing as well as developed world. It should be applicable to small, medium, and larger kind of cities. So it should be like, representative of the national circumstances as well as the city level circumstances. And also some of the members asked us to focus on the inclusivity, that is gender, age, physically disabled. So what kind of infrastructure should be built for taking care of the needs of these special groups? And there was also discussions on various financing options that we had presented in the paper. And members asked us to include successful case from all countries, not only from the developed economies, also from the developing economies. So this is broadly the first session. It was very well received by the members, the presidency's output. These suggestions will be deliberated further, and in the meeting that is going to happen in June, we will again present, and in the June meeting, this is going to be finally approved by the infrastructure working group. So that is the first session, that's what happened. On the second session, we are coming out, infrastructure working group is coming out with a compendium of various successful models and cases where financing cities happened. So to finance a city, as you all know, apart from the own revenue and the government grant, they can take loan from banks, they can take loan from international organizations like World Bank, ADB, etc. They can float a municipal bond, or they can use the land value capture methodology. They can go for transit-oriented development. So there are various financing options as well as non-financing options. Non-financing options are the national policies, urban planning approaches which facilitate financing. So this is a broad outline, and what we are trying to do is, we are going to bring out a compendium which will contain 15 to 25 case studies of each instrument where it was successfully used. Say for example, town planning scheme is one of the example if we take in the entire world, where was this successfully used and how did it help that particular municipality or city to get more finance. So this 25 case studies will look into various aspects just I mentioned, and that will become a very good reference document for every other country and municipality to replicate. So this work, presidency, that is India, along with, there is an organization called OECD. So both of us are combinedly preparing this document. So that was the second session. So this draft outline was presented by OECD. Our members have again very well received it, and this will become a very good reference document for all the countries and municipalities. And then third session is, there's a concept called quality infrastructure indicator. So this work was done in the last few presidencies. I think it was initially done by Japan and then it was carried out. So last year in the Indonesian presidency, the QII was approved and endorsed. That means every other member has accepted the proposals. Again, it is a voluntary and non-binding kind of an indicator. So what does it do? So it studies any infrastructure project, which is studies which are already happening under this deliverable. So in the June meeting, we will present the results of the pilot studies that are happening. The pilot project is spread across the world. It's not only in one particular country. Currently, there are about 4 projects are under study, and we are likely to get many more projects nominated for pilot study from different members, because during the interaction, several members came forward to nominate pilot study for this. So this was the third session. And post lunch, we had a sideline workshop. The workshop is titled as Infrastructure Taxonomy. The infrastructure taxonomy means various countries have different definition of what is the meaning of infrastructure. I mean, what are the kind of works or sectors are classified as infrastructure. That is different across different countries. Second, within countries also, different organizations have different definitions. For example, the ministry will have one kind of definition, the central bank may have one kind of definition. So what is the implication of that? Because different people have different definitions, financing becomes a little difficult, because based on the classification of a particular sector as an infrastructure sector, the tenure of the loan that is given, the interest rate, the risk assessment, and then the capital adequacy, everything changes. So these 4 parameters change based on the infrastructure definition. So there was discussion around that. Very interesting panel discussion happened. Experts from across the world participated, who have done a lot of work on the national accounting methodologies. As well as, interestingly, this time, the private sector players also were represented in the panel. So they also brought in the perspective of how private sector is looking at what has to be called as infrastructure. Because we are discussing private sector financing also as one of the main driver that will cater to the urbanization needs. So it was a very good comprehensive discussion. One side, how the governments are defining what is infrastructure. On the other side, how private sector is looking at it. Then how do we sort of find a balance so that we get funding from the private sector also, was the main theme of that workshop. It was also very productive workshop. Then that was day 1. So on day 2 today, we had basically 4 sessions. So the first session in the morning, we started with something called Global Infrastructure Hub. This Global Infrastructure Hub is a G20 formation. So it is based right now in Australia. So this entity is doing work related to infrastructure. They collect data, they bring out reports on infrastructure, sector studies, etc., etc. So there is an issue about this entity's continuance. So based on what model this entity should take and how it will function in the future, that was a legacy discussion. So that was the first session. And in the second session, it was a very, very important session that was like, if the city has to be inclusive, that means if it has to cater to every section of the society of the people, like gender, different age, different requirements in terms of their ability, social strata, all that, if the city has to take care of everybody and treat them all equal and provide services to them, what are the requirements for the city? So this work is being handled by World Bank. So the title of the report will be Enablers of Inclusive City, Enhancing Access to Urban Services and Opportunities. So World Bank presented an outline, and then they are going to come out with various case studies, and finally the major part of the report will be what are the policy instruments? What are the policy instruments that can bring inclusivity in the cities? So that is the outcome of this report, which was very much appreciated by the members. And members gave suggestions emphasizing different, whatever I have just mentioned. Somebody said, physically differently abled people and their requirement has to be kept in mind. Somebody said the use of technology and e-governance in breaking barriers and making services accessible to people should be discussed. So there were various suggestions around it, but it is a well-rounded report. It will be a very interesting report. And then the next session was on capacity building for urban administration. Now, on the one hand, we are talking about financing cities. On the other hand, we are talking about inclusivity. We want cities to be sustainable. We want cities to be resilient after disasters or for any climate-related change. So if one has to handle all this, if a city government, if a municipality has to handle all this, what kind of skill sets are required for the administration? And what kind of trainings are required to build the skill sets which are there? So this report is going to look at municipal level requirement of various skills that are required for financing cities of tomorrow in order to make the cities inclusive, resilient and sustainable. So here the report will look at the institutional requirement. Then there are individuals who are working within that. It can be an elected representative or officers like the municipal commissioners and the other people. And then there is community around it where the municipality gives service, that is the people, and then the resident welfare associations. There will be civil society organizations like NGOs. And then finally, how a participatory planning approach is required so that the decisions made really reflect the needs and aspirations of the people. So this is what this report is going to look at, and they will suggest a framework which is customizable to every city. So we will give a framework, but each city can customize according to its own and strength. Some city may be very big, their requirements may be little on a higher scale. Some city may be smaller in size and their requirement may be little different. So we are giving a broad framework under this, and every city can customize this and adopt this for a capacity building of their municipality. And then the final session, the last session, was on a thing called Infra Tracker. What is Infra Tracker? So across the world, governments are providing budget for infrastructure development. Similarly, private sector also is investing into infrastructure works. But at one place, how do we get this information? So each country has its own budget document, or each state government has its own budget document, each municipality has its own budget plan documents in which these details are there. But if you want to know at a country level or at the world level what is happening on this infrastructure, we don't have a mechanism to get this data. So this Infra Tracker is trying to address this issue and trying to collect all the data from different published documents. which are already available in the public domain. Maybe the country budget document or the subnational, that is the state government budget documents. So we are trying to develop an online tool through the entity that I just discussed, GI Hub. They are working on this tool, and this tool has the provision of collecting this data from a published document, and anybody can validate this. This country or the state or the municipality can validate and say, yes, these figures are correct. Then we will publish it for the public consumptions. So that is the final session, Infra Tracker. So in this is also a legacy work, I mean, which happened in the previous presidencies. But what is the improvement that we are trying to bring here is, so far people have to do data entry. It's not an automatic tool. So now we are trying to automate this process, pick up the data from published documents, and then the country or anybody can validate it. Once a validation is done, this becomes a published document. So that is the final discussion that happened. So if I can sum up, it was an excellent 2 days of deliberations. All the members participated very actively. Those members who are not able to participate physically here, they were all available online, and they were able to make interventions and contributions during every session. So we had a very good, productive session and second infrastructure working group meeting in Visakhapatnam. And in the next 2 months, we will work on all these suggestions that have come here. And our third working group meeting will be in the month of June, towards the end of June, in Rishikesh. So we will be gearing up for that. Thank you, and I will take questions. CM sir came for an interaction with the delegates, and then he had attended the dinner. So he had interaction with the delegates. So basically, co-chairs welcomed him, and then he spoke about the state's housing program, because that's also one of the social infrastructure which is happening. So it was a brief interaction. After that, he attended the gala dinner, where there was a cultural program. After that, he left.
These all delegations is noted in a lot of issues. But these all delegations in future have to implement in all the countries. It's possible. So different patterns is there. Every country has their own pattern and economic activity. So it's a possible, or it's a practical method. It's going on that.
See, now whatever documents we are bringing out, they are all voluntary in nature and non-binding. So it is not prescriptive that somebody has to implement. So it is a framework available for you to implement. If you feel, okay, this is a good framework where it is useful for me, anybody will always pick up and implement that. So the purpose of creating all this is to make available the knowledge pool and the frameworks available for countries to adopt it. Including India, it is 14 and plus 1, and there are 5 members who attended online, but we can't disclose those names publicly, so I'm sorry about that, but we will not be able to tell you who are those. Everybody attended and everybody contributed in all of the sessions. It is that they were not able to travel because of various issues related to their country and all that.
Sir, what is the specific achievement you had which you didn't have in that plan?
No, actually, see, now this is a process. Every Pune meeting, we were, as I told in the first day, very initial thoughts were shared to the members. Now, based on the feedback we have got, we have developed a complete document now. Say, for example, the principles, it's about 18 to 20 page document. The capacity building, the Asian Development Bank, it's about 30 plus pages document. So now we have put the blueprint on paper. So on that also they have given suggestions. So it is a process of, improving step by step, in which some ideas which were not there in Pune comes now. So it is an improvement process. So it's not that what we couldn't achieve there, we could achieve here. It is always, a process of improving towards the final delivery. There are so many case studies. I mean, like in everything, as I told you, in the financing document alone, there will be 15 to 25 cases. So even within the principles, there is a chapter called creative redevelopment, where we have given 6 case examples. So there are enough number of examples in each area. As the members spoke very well about the reception and the hospitality that the state has shown, right from their arrival at the airport to here. They also appreciated yesterday's culture program very much, because it was very well organized, and it was a very high level presentation by a professional team. And generally they are happy about the stay and other hospitality. And during the excursion also, whoever have gone on that trip, so they have seen Totlakonda, they have gone to Kailashgiri, they went to RK Beach, they went to the museum, the Sea Harrier Museum, and then they went to the VMRDA Park. So they said that the viewpoint from Kailashgiri is so amazing and the city is very beautiful. So that was one of the remark given by the members. No, see now we are not discussing anything city specific. As I told, the discussions will be based on the population size, and then across the income levels, if it is a middle income country, high income country, low income country, and then if the municipality is small, medium and large, so that is the framework within which the policy instruments will shape up. So we are not taking any specific city and its geographical or physical situation and then tailor strategies, because it will be very difficult, because you will get so many variations across the world. So getting into that kind of a granular approach will be difficult. So basic typology is like we will be using the income status of the countries and the size of the municipalities and try to work around that framework. So that is the fundamental approach.
So if no more questions are there, we can close the session.
Yes, tomorrow we have an event. As we told, tomorrow is a training program for the G20 delegates, those who have come for the G20 meetings. So there will be a half-a-day training program, and there will be 2 classroom sessions. One is taken by the representatives from South Korea, Seoul Metropolitan Government, that is the city of Seoul. Its population is very high. Out of the country's population, I believe it's more than 50% live in one particular city. And they have done tremendous amount of work on various financing models for their city development, be it riverfront development or reclamation and development of a new city called Incheon municipality, where the international airport is located. And they have done urban mobility project, the metro system. So they have various successful financial models available, and they are going to talk about that. Then second speaker would be from Singapore. Singapore also has demonstrated various concepts. So they have a concept called livable cities. Now, when we talk about sustainable, resilient and inclusive, it's all related to enhancing the quality of life of the citizens in the cities. So it is a livable cities that what Singapore is always trying to make. So in that process, how did they use town planning approach as an effective tool to achieve that? Similarly, there are various other instruments by which they have successfully demonstrated that Singapore could achieve the livable city concept. So that is going to be discussed in the second sessions. After that, there will be 4 member countries presenting their own successful cases or projects. So one of that will be from India, will be from Vizag itself. So Vizag also will present a case study within that 4. So after that, in the afternoon, the delegates will be taken to 3 different projects. One is the floating solar plant in Mudasarlova and the river conservation project. It was funded through Urban Climate Resilience Fund from one of the international organizations. So that is one kind of a funding model. The second will be a 24/7 water supply project. Again, it was funded by an international organization. I think it's ADB funded project. The third one will be a waste to energy project. It is a private finance model. So we are trying to showcase 3 different projects with 3 different kinds of funding models. So this is for tomorrow. And on 31st, tomorrow after this, the G20 delegates will leave. On 31st, we have invited municipal commissioners from across the country. Because the experts from Korea and Singapore have come all the way down, so we wanted to involve them and share the same knowledge and experience for the municipal commissioners from our country. So right now we have got about 50 nominations from across the country. So more than 50 municipal commissioners will be coming over here. Plus, as I told you in the first day, we are also inviting students, intellectuals, think tanks, and vice chancellors, principals from Vizag city also to participate in that conference on 31st. So it will be a half a day session wherein the Singapore and the Korean experience will be shared to all these members. So this is the program on 31st. No, they didn't.
Sir, many discussions on climate change and sinking in future. Cities like, example, like Singapore and Visakhapatnam. So some issues is going on. If anything, discussion on that.
Okay, actually in this there is a separate work group for disaster resilience whose meeting is going to happen I think very soon in Chandigarh. There is a separate working group on disaster resilience and risk mitigation. So probably they will discuss that in elaborate manner. So here in this financing cities of tomorrow, what are the challenges cities will face because of climate change and what kind of funding will be required for that. So that was the discussion that happened. Say for example, because of climate change, the frequency of droughts may increase. That means if the rainfall is erratic, what is the impact for the city? If the rainfall is not proper, city will not get adequate drinking water because many cities get their water from far off sources or rivers. So if the river is not flowing, how does the city get water? That means, do we need to store or do we need to conserve groundwater or do we need to find ways to treat the wastewater and use for other purposes and conserve the fresh water? So these are the challenges. I get your point. Your point of sea level rise and if there is any mitigation, so that is one of the requirement maybe. So climate change and then what are the adaptations that the cities will require and what are the kinds of investment that they have to make is one of the aspects within the financing cities of tomorrow. However, very detailed study and then different kinds of challenges and risk wise, I think it will be happening in the other working groups. So as we discussed in the first day itself, so it again depends on the city's capacity. What is the city's capacity? City's capacity there are 2 elements within that. One, how strong is your financial credentials? How strong is your own source? Because your ability to raise resource from any other source depends largely on this. whether it is from the banking sector, whether it is through the bond market, whether it is through the green bonds or climate bonds, or even if you want to raise resources from international organizations like the World Bank and ADB, they always look at how sound your financial management is. So that is one of the major constraints for the municipalities. The second constraint is you should know, based on the requirement of your city, what kind of projects you are going to take up, and do you have a viable and bankable project on your hand. If you don't have either one of that, so your ability to get resources is going to be limited. So as I said in the beginning, if you look at cities, small, medium and large, depending on the financial status, what we call as creditworthiness, their ability to access different instruments of financing will vary. So if you are a large city, you have 10 very good projects and you have a credit rating, the number of options opening up to you is very high. You can immediately go to a bank and take a term loan and do it, or you can float a municipal bond, or you can float a PPP project. There will be takers for it. So it all depends on the strength of your creditworthiness. Now you may ask, okay, if somebody does not have a creditworthiness, what does he do? So there are ways to enhance that creditworthiness. So that is a process. So what is that process? First, they have to start with their account keeping, then slowly graduate to revenue enhancement, then demonstrate that they have the capabilities. Even if they fall short at that point of time, there are various ways and mechanisms by which somebody will vouchsafe for that credit guarantee for that municipality. Then they become bankable to access private financing sources. So these are all the strategies that we discuss. So if somebody is good, somebody is creditworthy, somebody has a project, okay, how do we take him to the appropriate financing instrument? Somebody is right now not having the current capacity to demonstrate, how do we improve them and bring to that level? So that is the strategy which works. So it's a wonderful opportunity to showcase what India has achieved so far and what are our dreams and ambitions, and also the cultural heritage and the richness of the diversity and the cultural heritage that we have within our country to the entire world. So if you see, even during this kind of a economic situation that is there across the world, there's the solid fundamentals of our economy is a standout performer, and we are going to grow at 6 to 6.5% even under this kind of an international scenario where there is supply chain disruptions, inflations and tighter monetary conditions. So that is one of the major strengths that everybody is looking at, and G20 as a platform has made us to showcase to the entire world that we are a country, we are very strong in our economic fundamentals, and we are going to grow very strongly. And aligning with that, the focus on the last 3 budgets, if you see, there's a more than 30 to 33% increase consistently year after year on the capex allocations. So this year, for example, the budget 10 lakh crores have been allocated only for capex, and if you add the other grants and given to the state governments, the effective capex is more than 13.5 lakh crores. So that's a huge money. It has never been done. So this will have a multiplier effect, creating various infrastructure, then allied ancillarization growing, and a lot of employment taking off. So that is the idea. So these are all wonderful opportunities that we are able to showcase what kind of projects we have done in our country, and especially with respect to the digital space, be it the UPI payment systems and unheard of, or the Aadhaar linked payment systems that we have. So these are all the things that we are explaining to the world through this forum. Okay, Infra Tracker is a tool. So now, as a presidency, along with the co-chairs, we lead this work and we coordinate with various members in contributing ideas and shaping up this tool. So in this tool, once it is out, you will see for yourself that you can analyze in various ways. You can pick up a sector and see country-wise how much has been allocated, or there are different ways of visualizations. That is, it will be a wonderful dashboard. So, and then which country has, suppose within a sector, if you want to see, like within road sector, what kind of financing instrument has been used? Has it been done by the government grant or through PPP model or any other monetization, REITs, InvITs? So all this will be available in that tool. So this is the contribution along with everybody that we are trying to work on. So this will enable everybody to make a very good decision as to how do we allocate money for which sector and how do we access capital from different sources for different sectors. Yes, we are calling them. Yeah, we are. No. We have reached out to the city administration. They are in the process of collecting the names and giving us.
All the students are particularly for the civil or any particular departments?
See, if there is any specific urban development related departments or the management courses related to the municipal finances, we would prefer them because they can very well connect with the topic. Our idea is to broad-base the representation. We have told the city administration that get students from as many institutions as possible so they get a feel of what is happening. So that was the idea.
I think we can call it a day. No more questions are there. So thank you very much for coming over here and sparing your time from last 2 days. And on behalf of the department, I'd like to thank all the media persons who are being so cooperative in last 2 days and covering the event extensively, giving a glimpse of not only the G20 proceedings, but also the kind of work the state has done in organizing this event for last 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.